Hello everyone, welcome to a short tutorial video about the PMDG 777 and its off-path descent option in the FMS. This option is a very neat feature that allows you to get a quick overview of the energy state of your aircraft with reference to a waypoint that you can freely select on, let's say, the arrival route or the final approach. Before I show you the practical use of this feature, I will give you some theoretical knowledge before we hop into the aircraft. So the off-path descent page allows the analysis of descent performance of the present route of flight direct to a selected waypoint. Data entered on the page shows either the clean cyan energy ring and the speed brake drag white range on the pages and on the nav display. The ranges are based on the entered waypoint and altitude constraint. The range can be used to determine if the altitude constraint can be met in a direct descent to the waypoint. So that with regards to clean configuration or with full speed brake configuration. It says here also the FMC puts the last descent waypoint with an altitude constraint into descent 2. And the circles are dynamically adjusted as the aircraft descends and or changes speed. So once we've called up the off-path descent page, and I'll show you that in a few minutes in the aircraft, we can see on the top left corner, you can enter a certain waypoint of your choosing. To the right of that, DTG, distance to go, it tells you how far you have to go to that waypoint. Then you will have to enter a desired speed and altitude at that entered waypoint. And the selected speed, 240 knots, is what comes from the FMS. And that is pretty much your current airspeed. Then in the yellow box, you can see 2 clean, 2 drag. That means the distance to either the clean or the drag circles. And a minus sign means that you've already passed that respective circle. So clean again would be cyan. So here in the picture on the left, you can see we're in between the cyan and the white circle. And yes, so that means we're 3 miles within that clean circle, which means we're going to have to add some drag. Maybe not full speed brakes, but let's say half speed brakes. Here's an important note. The circles are always referenced to an entered waypoint. So if you're following a route which does not go directly to that waypoint, then you will have more track miles available and have to adjust the descent rate a little. The cyan circle position displays the latest point at which the aircraft can start its idle power descent in clean configuration to reach the entered waypoint altitude and speed in clean configuration. The white circle position displays the latest point at which the aircraft can start its idle power descent with full speed brakes to reach the entered waypoint altitude and speed in clean configuration. Here are 3 examples. The number 1 example, which is outside of the cyan circle, and that means the aircraft can easily reach the entered waypoint altitude and speed with the idle power descent in clean configuration. So no need to intervene right now. Position 2 is within the cyan circle, but outside the white circle. And that means the aircraft can't reach the entered waypoint altitude and speed with idle power descent in clean configuration. And hence, you need to add some drag to achieve this. This would be usually done in this distance with the speed brakes. If you are closer in, you can add some flaps and that way add a drag to meet the drag requirements. The position 3 is inside of the white circle, and of course that means that the aircraft can't reach the entered waypoint altitude and speed with idle power and full speed brakes. So more drag, for example the landing gear, or more flaps are needed, or more track miles are needed to meet that given restriction. Okay, enough theory. Let's hop into the aircraft and have a look how it's done in practice. So let's first talk about where we currently are. Position right now is north of Jade, and so the initial clearance will be via Jade and then UT for the ILS approach, one it right in Austin. So for our reference waypoint, we are going to choose the final descent point at LB, or however you pronounce that, so LB. So that's what I'm going to put in. So we're going to be at this point, obviously, at a fairly slow speed, 150 knots, let's say, and at 1600 feet. So these are the values that I'm going to enter now into the FMS. So we'll go to the VNAV page, and already on the descent page, and here you have the Offpath Descent prompt. I'm going to click on that. Now, as we just mentioned, we're going to dial in the fix LB. The speed that we are currently flying is 240 knots. The speed we want to have at that waypoint is 150 knots, and the altitude was 1600 feet. I'm going to put that on there. So it gives us now the distance to go to that waypoint. And also now, if we want to have these energy circles being displayed on the nav display, we just click on the display on. And there we go. So currently, it's giving me a distance to the clean circle. And right now, we've got 4 miles to go. So this circle is the latest point where we can reach LB at this criteria, or to meet these criteria, with idle descent profile, no drag. So now let's assume that we are descending at 6,000 feet, and then ATC is going to delay a next clearance to a lower altitude for a while, so that we get within that blue circle, which would mean that from that point onwards, we cannot reach that waypoint with the given restriction in idle power descent. So we have to add some drag. And also you can see now that we're within that circle, the white circle has appeared, and that is the energy circle, which tells us that if we are in between the blue and the white circle, we need some drag. The white circle boundary tells us that from this point onwards, we need to have full speed brakes out in idle descent to reach that entered waypoint with the given criteria. So right now, if we start our descent, then we would need some drag, not full drag. So let's go down to 3,000 feet, flight level change. And that green banana, as we say, shows us where, with the current vertical speed, we will reach the entered altitude on the FCU. So you see, depending on how fast we descend, that varies. Now, also here's a note. These circles are dynamic. So as you descend, you will see them tightening. So it's a non-stop update to tell you about the profile and what you need as a configuration, drag or no drag. So now we can see we're entering, just about to get to the white circle. So we're going to have to add some speed brakes here. So speed brakes fully up. And look at that. So now we see the descent rate has increased, the circles have readjusted, and now it's telling me, well, you don't need that much speed brake, so we could theoretically now just play around a little bit with the speed brake lever and adjust that accordingly. So let's say we get the clearance down to 1,600 feet, cleared for the approach. I'm not going to press the approach button just yet. I'm just going to continue with the descent profile here. So we still got some speed brakes out. Now, as we reach the blue circle again, let me just start reducing the speed. And you'll see again the dynamic, and let's put some flaps out. So the dynamic function of those circles. Here comes flaps 1. Well, now we're back into the blue circle, so theoretically we don't need any speed brakes anymore. And let's put flaps to 5. There we go. Now we've got that white circle again. So whenever it seems like we get outside that blue circle, the white circle disappears. And so there we go. You can see we're really now slowing down. Let's put the gear down. Speed brakes back in. Put flaps 15, actually flaps 20 actually. Going to press the approach button, and so right now, as you see, we've made our profile almost, we're not quite 150 knots yet, but that's because I was a bit too slow. And there you go. That's one way to use those energy circles. All right, so a bit further out now, a bit higher than before. I am now going to enter the waypoint UT to give me a bit more space. That's at 9 miles. And here I want to have 170 knots at 2,800 feet. So we'll enter those values. Cyan and the white circle, so we definitely do need some drag. If we are within the white circle, it would mean, according to the FMS calculations, we would need additional drag outside of the speed brakes, i.e. landing gear, which we can't extend right now because we're a bit above the landing gear extending speed here. So as we're coming down, let me just dial down the altitude to, let's say, 5,000 feet. And we're going to slow down to 250 knots. And we should be seeing the dynamic function here of those circles. So now that we are within the cyan and the white circle, we're using speed brake, we should be making the restriction that we've entered. So again, you can see the UT waypoint is highlighted now in cyan as well, with a green circle around it to make it better visible for you. So here's 10,000 feet. We're doing okay. So from the forecast right now, we're still outside of the white circle. Now shade, shade, I think it's pronounced, it's 4,000. Here you go. So it kind of confirms with that banana, we'll reach 4,000 here, just prior to Jade. So all is good. The rest we have to consider, though, is the speed reduction to meet that requirement at UT with 170 knots at 2,800 feet. So let me just slow down further. And oh yeah, one thing to mention as well. The circles are always referenced to your entered waypoint, right? They're not referenced to the LNAV path. So let's say the LNAV path first goes perpendicular and then to Jade. That would give us more track miles. So these circles then would be a bit inaccurate, since they are only giving us an indication from straight line to that entered fix, and not the track miles that you may have because you're flying a little detour. So again, it's good for situational awareness, right? I can see that, hey, I'm not outside of the cyan circle, so I do need some drag on the aircraft. However, it's still just enough with the speed brakes that we have. Actually, I could reduce the amount of speed brakes a tad. Let's slow down a bit more, flaps 1. Okay, so let's dial down. Let's say get clearance down to 2,800 feet, cleared for the ILS right. 2,800. And so look at that. We are getting close to the cyan circle, which is the clean descent. So let me try to retract the speed brakes. Let's see what happens now, because we have some drag out with the flaps. I'm gonna go flaps 5 here, and that should be enough. I mean, the drag circle is not only reference to drag with the speed brakes in that sense. If you add additional drag, obviously with the flaps or landing gear, then you may be having already enough drag, and then you can stow the speed brakes. But the good thing is these circles, as they adjust themselves regarding your energy level, will give an indication, a good indication on whether or not you can reach that that waypoint with the criteria. I'm going to intercept the localizer here, lock, and look at that. We're a tad high, I would say, for clean, because we are already on glide slope here, and usually, well, maybe the 777 is able to do that descent with flaps 5 drag. We shall see. And again, you can see we are in between the cyan and the white, so we do need some drag on the aircraft, and I could say that maybe flaps isn't enough, so I'm going to use a bit of speed brakes here, which should help us. And now you can see the lovely dynamic reference here. You see how the circles are getting smaller as we are descending faster now. There we are. We are outside the cyan circle, so that white circle has disappeared again. So this shows us that we're in good shape now for the approach. So I'm going to press the approach button. Glide slope armed.
2500.
Let's check. Let's go flaps 15. Selecting flaps 15 speed. And we made the restriction as we wanted, 190 knots at 2,800 feet at UT. Very nice. In case you are wondering, well, why would I really need those energy circles? Because I have a vertical deviation pointer that tells me whether or not I'm high or low regarding the vertical path. Well, the problem is, one, that doesn't take into account really your energy state of the aircraft. It just shows you a physical vertical displacement of the aircraft from the optimum path. And another downside is that if you're under radar vectors, then this indication becomes very inaccurate. And so the energy circles will give you a much better live updated view of the energy state of the aircraft with regards to altitude and airspeed. I hope that has cleared up some things about the very nice function of the off-path descent in the FMS. If you have further questions, post them down in the comment section below. And also, let me know if the function here has helped you in your flight sim experience. As always, thank you so much for watching. Take care, happy landings.